Hi, welcome to Barmy Army fan cams after a 2-0 win away at Aston Villa. Not the greatest performance by any means, but it's 3 points. And if we keep that going, who knows what will happen at the end of the season. I'm joined this afternoon by Fiona, Zoe, Matt and Jake. A difficult watch at times, Fiona, but was 3 points the only thing that we needed to get out of today?
That's the most important thing, getting a win. Yeah, we didn't make it easier for ourselves, and as fans, there was quite a few moments where you're like, just shoot. Yeah, obviously we would have preferred it to be a bit more comfortable. 2-0 makes it was quite a lot of it was our way, but they did hit the bar, and we only scored the second quite late on. So it'd have been nice to get a couple more a bit earlier on, and maybe save some of us. But yeah, against the lower teams, we need to make sure we don't slip up. So yeah, a win is the most important.
Zoe, for you, was that a performance that was related to the team that was out there and we were missing a few players? Do you think that really showed today as well?
Yeah, I do. And of course, Jackie went off quite early on. I think that sometimes she can be a bit like the cement that keeps us all together and keeps that link between our defence and midfield and then our strikers. So I think having that injury really early on, I do think it affected the team as well as our other injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Jake, I asked the question in the watch along. I'm going to ask it of you now. Who did we miss more, do you think? Jackie when she's gone off, or a real target number 9?
Honestly, we missed both, really. There was clear gaps in midfield and up front we looked weak. So, yeah, both. But I feel like had we had, Jess or Alessia in for this one, we would have been a bit more comfortable. Quite sure either of them could have put the ball in the net a few times. But, these things happen, injuries, and it's about how the team comes together. And we didn't look comfortable at times, but, we got the job done. So, yes, there was plenty of things we can point out that weren't great, but yeah, eventually it all fell into place.
And Matt, you've got the joy of writing the match review for us. So I know at one point you were thinking about what you were going to write. So does the last few minutes of that game completely change your opinion?
No, it doesn't. Honestly, as you say, I actually tweeted a few minutes before the end. I don't know how on earth I'm gonna write this match report. And obviously, as others have said, yes, we got the win, which is the most important thing. But ultimately, I think, all due respect to Villa, against a better team, we would not have won that game. Yes, we dominated the ball, and I can't actually remember Mary having a save to make, but our passing was incredibly sloppy. Our final ball was non-existent, and I think against a better team, we would have been punished as we were in the first half of the derby.
And then, Fiona, that kind of brings me to my question of, was that a performance for a poor team? As in, our performances against City, certainly the second half, against Chelsea, again, the second half, and Arsenal, so much better than our performances against the so-called weaker teams. Are we struggling against these teams to put in a good performance?
I don't know if we might be a bit complacent. I don't know if we think, oh yeah, okay, we don't need to give 100% against these weaker teams, but I think there were changes in the 11 that maybe, impacted the performance. I think LJ having her as a striker impacts how other players play, because you've got Tobin and Leah who can put a brilliant cross into the box, and there was nobody there. So I think you can get away with it against the weaker teams. If we played like that against City or Arsenal, I think we would have struggled to get a win. It might have happened, but it would have been a lot more difficult than it was today. But I think, I'm sure Casey will say this, doesn't matter who we play, we need to put in a good performance. Obviously, the win is important, but if we want to keep improving, we need to make sure we do perform against all teams and not just the bigger teams. So I think there's definitely things to work on before the next game.
Jake, I know you're a fan of internationals. Did that kill our momentum? Is that what we saw out there today?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, obviously, there's been plenty of talk about how Casey Hansen's been injured, and I feel like we could have done with her today on the right wing, because I feel like apart from Leah, look at the right side, there wasn't that much going on. So yeah, we've lost her in that sense, and yeah, as you say, it just breaks up the momentum. And as much as I love the internationals, it's a good point. It's hard to argue against as a fan of internationals, because we were doing really well before we went into it. The win against Arsenal, the points and the comeback against City, and it just feels like we've gone back to sort of square one with this. But as I say, I feel like it's not a step backwards. It's more the fact that we sort of just lowered ourselves to Villa's standards today. And then obviously when we play the next, I think it's Reading next game, isn't it? I think they'll bring games to us, and we'll probably be up to their standard. We'll up our game for the bigger teams. It's just what we do. Yeah. We're a strange team. We're a very confusing team, and they frustrate us sometimes, but they get the points. So that's what matters.
We're a team that's kept winning so far. So yeah, performance feels like being picky. Zoe, were you surprised at some of the substitutions? And I'm thinking in particular, we got sort of the last 10, 15 minutes of that game, and we were almost crying out for a change. We were expecting maybe Ivana Fuso to come on. I think we're all desperate to see her. Were you surprised that nothing really shifted?
Yeah, I was, and I also thought I was wanting Zellum to come on quite early on, because like we were all saying in the watch along, that there was definitely something lacking in midfield, and I just felt like Zellum could have sort of fixed that a little bit. So she's one that I was hoping was going to come on quite early on, and as you say, we're all desperately looking forward to watching Ivana and see the difference that she could have made. So yeah, I was a bit surprised, but I mean, I guess Casey knew what she was doing, because we were all saying that maybe Tooney should have come off, and then of course she went and got the goal. So yeah, I think you're right, but at the same time, I think Casey obviously knew what she was doing, and it didn't matter in the end.
We're all football managers. We all think we know best. Matt, before I ask everybody to pick a player of the match, so get thinking if you haven't already picked somebody. Matt, positives though, in terms of obviously it's a win. Clean sheet again.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, we all had our issues with the performance, but we're still top of the league, and whatever happens tomorrow, we will end the weekend top of the league again. As you say, it's a clean sheet, which wasn't really happening early on in the season, and we've still got that 0 in the defeats column. So yeah, you say that definitely.
I think the thing, and I know I've said this on Spancams, I think I've probably said it on the podcast as well, that when your standards pick up, you almost, and I think we've all kind of identified this, we expect more. And actually the things that maybe at times last season would have really pleased us and would have been the thing we asked for, we're just almost taken for granted now, which is a mark for me of how far we've come and just what this team's been capable of. So on that note, last question to you all. Not the most straightforward, and definitely one that Jackie Gronan's not going to win for once. Player of the match. Zoe, you can go first.
Leah Galton.
Okay. I think that might be a popular one there. Matt?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Leah for me.
Okay. Jake?
I'm gutted I can't give it to Jackie. Leah.
Honourable mention for Jackie, I think, at this point. Nothing else we'd realise we were missing how much we were missing. A Fiona, player of the match, please.
Well, Jackie had a great 10 minutes. It's a tough one, but I got to give it to Leah. Seemed to be a bit more back to what we saw last season.
Yeah.
Going forward.
And a shame that some of those balls she was putting in, there was nobody on the end of. But Hopefully soon. Thank you very much for joining me. That's all for Fan Cams today. We're back next Sunday. I think it is. Next Sunday we play Reading away. There will be fans in the grounds. The Reading fans are allowed to attend. So let's see how many of them turn up and try to make a bit of atmosphere. We'll be back on Fan Cams afterwards though. So let's see what goes. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.